Listen to Mars for a moment. Not the music laid over it, not the heroic voiceover, the real thing. Thin wind, faint mechanical pings. A world where sound itself moves wrong, slowed by a carbon dioxide sky so weak it can barely carry a whisper. And yet, this is the planet we keep dressing up as humanity's next home. Red deserts, blue sunsets, glass domes. A second Earth waiting just beyond our fear. That is the fantasy. And it may be one of the most dangerous fantasies our species has ever believed. Because Mars does not greet us like a frontier, it lures us like one. From a distance, it looks almost intimate. It has seasons, ice caps, canyons, volcanoes. A day only slightly longer than our own. The architecture of familiarity is all there, arranged like a trap. We see resemblance and mistake it for mercy. We see echoes of Earth and assume survivability. But resemblance is not kindness. Resemblance is camouflage. Mars looks like a place we could belong to only because we are still, seeing it from very far away. Up close, the mask comes off fast. Mars is a dusty, cold desert wrapped in an atmosphere so thin that it offers almost none of the protection Earth gives us without asking for gratitude. It is mostly carbon dioxide. Heat escapes easily. Temperatures plunge with savage indifference. The sky is not the soft blue of a living world, but a haze of suspended dust. This is not a rugged version of home. This is a failed sanctuary, a place where the basic conditions of life were stripped down to the bone and never restored. And that is the first real secret. Mars is terrifying not because it is dramatic, but because it is exposed. NASA's own data points to a planet that once had a wetter, more habitable past and now lives without a global magnetic field. That means the shield is gone. The invisible armor that protects Earth from a constant bombardment of charged particles simply does not stand guard there. To travel to Mars is to spend months outside Earth's magnetic protection. To stand on Mars is to arrive at a destination that can barely defend you from the sky above it. Radiation sounds abstract until you imagine what it actually means. Not a cinematic beam. Not some glowing storm you can run from. Subatomic violence. Energy passing through skin, through walls, through cells, damaging DNA, raising cancer risk, threatening acute sickness if the dose is high enough. And Mars helps almost none of it. No global magnetic field to deflect much of the danger. No thick atmosphere to absorb the rest. Even a habitat becomes less a home than a bunker. Shelter is no longer shelter, it is a temporary argument with physics. But even if you solved the radiation problem, Mars has other ways of humiliating certainty. Perseverance revealed that sound on Mars behaves like something injured. Lower, slower, muffled. High-pitched sounds struggle to travel. During low-pressure seasons, the microphone found something even stranger. Silence so profound it feels less like quiet and more like absence. As if the planet is not merely empty, but withholding. A world that does not echo back properly. A world that takes one of the oldest signs of life, sound, and thins it into a ghost. And then there is the methane, the whisper that should not be there. Curiosity has repeatedly detected methane near the surface of Gale crater, sometimes in baffling spikes, while an orbiter higher above Mars failed to see the gas in the broader atmosphere. On Earth, methane tempts the imagination toward life, but Mars never gives the comfort of a clean answer. The gas may come from rock, water, heat, or something biological. It may rise from the ground and vanish before it climbs. It may be destroyed faster than it should be. Mars does not present a mystery, it performs one. So by the midpoint of this journey, a pattern emerges. Mars is not simply dead, it is contradictory. It keeps sending signals that feel like clues and then erasing the trail before we can name the culprit. If you want to keep descending into places like this, worlds that look beautiful until they begin to confess, stay with me, subscribe, and keep walking deeper into the dark. Because Mars has not shown us its final weapon yet. That weapon is weather. Not weather in the terrestrial sense, not rain, not thunder, not the cleansing violence of a storm that passes and leaves the world breathing again. Mars can raise dust storms so vast they cover much of the planet, burying the surface beneath a moving veil that can take months to settle. Think about that. An entire world dimmed, sunlight strangled, horizons erased. On Earth, weather reminds us we are small. On Mars, weather reminds us we are temporary. We know this because one of our bravest machines died there. Opportunity was never supposed to last long. It was designed for 90 Martian days. It survived nearly 15 years. It crossed more than 28 miles of another planet. It endured mechanical failures, dust, terrain, time itself. And then in 2018, a Mars-wide dust storm blanketed its location. The rover fell silent. Engineers sent more than 1,000 commands, trying to call it back through the storm. Nothing answered. Mars did not destroy opportunity with spectacle. It simply outlasted it. That is what makes Mars feel almost predatory. It does not need claws. It does not need malice. It only needs patience. And it has plenty of it. The canyons of Mars are not landscapes in the comforting sense. Valles Marineris stretches for more than 3,000 miles, a wound in the crust so enormous it makes Earth's Grand Canyon feel like a rehearsal. Olympus Mons rises more than 25 miles high, the largest volcano in the solar system, less a mountain than an accusation. These are familiar forms magnified beyond friendship, Earth-like shapes scaled into something inhuman. The cruelest places, though, are not the openly monstrous ones. They are the ones that look as if life should still be nearby. Jezero Crater, Gusev Crater, Meridiani Planum. Former lake basins, ancient deltas, mineral traces of water. Names that sound less like tombs and more like invitations. This is where Mars becomes psychologically dangerous. It arranges the scenery of habitability. It preserves the geometry of rivers and shorelines. It resembles the places where life on Earth once learned how to persist. And then it offers none of the tenderness those forms promise. Jezero is perhaps the most unsettling of all. Perseverance found evidence there for an ancient lake environment at Wildcat Ridge, a place where sediments settled in standing water and continued interacting with water long after they formed. In other words, a place that once had the chemistry of possibility. A place where microbial life, if it ever gained a foothold on Mars, might have left behind a record. But notice how Mars delivers hope, carefully, incompletely, like a message half buried in ash. Then came Chayava Falls, and a sample named Sapphire Canyon. NASA says it contains a potential biosignature, potential, not proof, not revelation, not the final answer to the oldest question in the universe, just a pattern, a possibility. Chemistry arranged in a way that may point toward ancient microbial life, while still leaving the door open for non-biological explanations. And that is perfect for Mars, because Mars never resolves its mysteries cleanly. It lets hope rise just high enough to cast a shadow. This ambiguity is not a side note, it is part of the curse. Mars was once wet. That much is becoming harder to deny. Rivers, deltas, floods, ancient lake beds, the evidence keeps accumulating. But if life ever existed there, then what we are looking at now is not just a dead planet. It is the aftermath of a world that lost the argument with time, radiation, atmosphere, and cold. A world where habitability was not permanent. A world where life, if it appeared, was not guaranteed survival. And suddenly Mars stops being a destination and becomes a prophecy. Perhaps that is why the history of reaching Mars feels almost haunted. From 1960 to 1996, 26 attempts were made to reach the Red Planet, and only 12 achieved partial or full success. Engineers joked about the Great Galactic Ghoul, a mythical predator stalking missions on their way to Mars. The joke worked because it felt uncomfortably close to the truth. Mars Observer vanished before orbital insertion. Mars Climate Orbiter was lost through a unit conversion error so small and so human it feels obscene. Spirit endured, opportunity endured longer. Every mission to Mars feels like an act of defiance against statistics, distance, and curse. And even now, Mars keeps one final image in reserve. Look up from its surface and there is Phobos, its larger moon, not serenely orbiting but spiraling inward, inch by inch, toward destruction. NASA says that in about 50 million years, Phobos will either crash into Mars or break apart into a ring. Even Mars cannot keep its own companion safe. Even its moon lives on borrowed time. This is a planetary system with doom written into its future tense. So why is Mars the scariest planet? Not because it is the hottest or the biggest or the most violent in raw extremes. Mars is frightening in a more intimate way. It looks survivable until you understand it. It looks reachable until you price the cost in bodies, machines, years, and uncertainty. It looks like Plan B until you realize it is a monument to how rare Plan A truly is. Mars is not our backup home. It is the red outline of what remains when a world loses the invisible protections that make life feel ordinary. And maybe that is the real warning buried in all this dust. The terror of Mars is not only that we do not belong there, it is that it forces us to confront how completely we belong here. On Earth, we breathe without thanking the atmosphere. We walk beneath a magnetic shield we cannot see. We mistake stability for entitlement. Mars removes that illusion. It stands out there like a ruin of possibility, a world that may once have flirted with life and now survives only as a lesson written in rust. If that lesson stayed with you, subscribe and return with me. There are more beautiful worlds in the dark, more elegant lies, more warnings waiting to be heard.